He boarded a bus on a summer evening and his life changed. A false accusation of sexual assault, an alleged unlawful arrest, fired from his job, and that's not even the half of it. Attorney Timothy Fraser, along with his attorney Joseph Feaster, on the fight for their day in court. That's coming up next on the PowerPLAY Show.
From the studios at Hellbait Productions, this is Season 3 of the PowerPLAY Show. Now, here's Tonya McGrath.
Welcome to the PowerPLAY Show. I'm Tonya McGrath. As we celebrate Black excellence this month, it was important to also highlight some stories that still make us shake our head or at least have pause for concern. Attorney Timothy Fraser was on an MBTA bus in the summer of 2017 when a woman falsely accused him of sexual assault. Falsely, I say, because when MBTA authorities reviewed the bus's surveillance tapes just moments before his arraignment, they quickly determined that the woman's statement was false, but not before the damage was already done. Frazier lost his job, but more importantly, he claimed his civil rights were violated and he was unlawfully arrested and was caused embarrassment as well as injury to his arm and his hand. Today, I have attorney Timothy Fraser here along with his attorney and a great friend of the show, Joseph Feaster. Gentlemen, welcome to the PowerPLAY Show.
Thank you very much, Tonya. Pleasure to be here as always. And thank you for taking this issue on.
Absolutely. Attorney Fraser, I'd like to start with you. And first, before we get into the case, I just want you to tell our audience just a little bit about who you are, where you're from, and the kind of work that you do.
Oh, sure. Well, thank you, Tonya. And again, thank you for giving time to this important issue. Because we feel it's an important issue as we see some of the activities going on amongst the police and our citizens throughout the day's current times. So I appreciate you taking the time to highlight my particular issue. I've been an attorney, I guess, for 20 years now. I attended Suffolk Law School. I was born and raised in the Boston area. Went to Hampton University, came back, went to Suffolk Law School, and had worked in pretty much large consulting firms for most of my career doing mergers and acquisitions and tax law. So right now, I'm currently in private practice. I'm still doing corporate transactions, corporate real estate development work, zoning, permitting, licensing, and those types of matters.
Attorney Fraser, I'd like you to take us back to that evening on August 1st, 2017, when you boarded the MBTA bus at Haymarket Station in Boston. And of course, Attorney Feaster, you're free to jump in at any time if you feel the need. So, Attorney Fraser, tell us what happened that evening.
Well, for me, it was a day kind of like any other. I had left my my offices in the Seaport District, and I think it was August. It was August 1st. It was a pretty nice day. So I decided to take a walk from the Seaport District to Haymarket. Normally, I maybe would have taken some public transportation to Haymarket, but that day, because it was nice, I decided to walk. When I arrived at Haymarket Station is when I encountered this individual who was also waiting for the bus, apparently. I have about one or two stops to my home in Chelsea. It's one of the first stops. And so I was waiting to embark the bus when she sort of backed up and backed into me. And so the incident sort of occurred pretty much from that point, continuing on. She began to escalate the situation. And at that point, I disembarked the bus because I'm looking around, it's 5 o'clock, people want to go home. So I'm thinking, I'll just de-escalate the situation by getting off the bus. Maybe this woman will calm down. When I tried to get off the bus, she sort of blocked me. When I finally got off the bus, she sort of took a few pictures of me. The bus driver, before I got off the bus, I said to the bus driver, wouldn't mind, just pick me up at the next stop. I'll cross the Greenway. And the bus driver said, yeah, sure. I saw what happened. Nothing. I know you didn't do anything. I'll pick you up on the other side. So I did get off the bus. I crossed the Greenway. I remember her taking some pictures of me as I did that. And then when I got on the bus on the other side of the Greenway, same bus, all the same passengers, and they're all looking at me because all they heard her say was what she yelled about me assaulting her. Who knows who saw what, but it was already uncomfortable for me to be in that situation. These are my neighbors, right? They're all going home on the same commute as I am. So that point is when I offered and I also remembered that she had taken a couple of photos of me. And at that point, I thought to myself, I don't want to get home and see myself on the 7 o'clock news. MBTA is looking for this person. So I offered my contact information to the bus driver. But it was at that point that I heard the sirens, and the police officer at that point did pull the bus over. So that's pretty much the genesis of the altercation from the time that the police became involved, at least involved with me.
So you were arrested on the spot. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct, Tonya. Pretty much, I assumed that the police stop was about the altercation that had just occurred at Haymarket. So I immediately, again, I'm thinking I don't want to inconvenience these passengers. I'm going to go talk to these police officers and let them know what just happened. But as soon as I disembarked the bus, they asked me to turn around and handcuff me.
Now, moments before the arraignment, which was the next day, MBTA authorities reviewed the surveillance tape and determined that the woman's claims of sexual assault were false, as I indicated in my introduction. My question is, could they have not reviewed those surveillance tapes at the scene and avoided this entire situation?
I don't know what the MBT, I would certainly say yes with today's technology. I would imagine that they'd be able to run those tapes back, pretty much in real time. But I think the larger question is, and it's one of the questions that was brought up in last week's hearing that's part of our motion to dismiss papers, is they didn't even ask anybody anything. We weren't even saying that they should have reviewed the tapes on the spot. And I believe the law is kind of contrary to that. It says they don't have to go to that level. But they do have to perform some kind of street investigation based on what happened in my situation. So whether that be asking the bus driver, which they did not do, whether that be they ask any of the passengers, what they did not do, whether or not they even asked me for a statement, which they did not do. And not to mention, they didn't even ask the MBTA person at Haymarket who made the 911 call. That 911 call was to report the woman as a disorderly person. They still didn't even ask it. So they asked no questions. They just basically took me directly to jail.
And Tanya, I do want to interject here because the basis of our contention is, we're both law and order persons. Timothy's brother is a state police officer, and so I have family who are officers. I have friends who are officers. So we're not even talking about that. We're talking about this specific instance that they took an action, and we believe that they took this action because of that Timothy is Black. We feel, and what we want to be able to establish, and that's the reason why the motion to dismiss that was filed last week is so objectionable to us. They don't want us to get the matter into a trier of fact to be able to establish what is the animus, racism that may exist by these officers. We know it does exist, and they're saying, well, you can't even explore that. This was a natural occurrence, should have been arrested. Our contention is that had he been white, they may have said, sir, let us put you in a car, let us check out what's happened, etc. Not only did they arrest him there, they took him back in full array of everyone at Haymarket, standing up against the car, lights blasting, and lights or twirling, and to put him in front of this individual. So all of these humiliation, etc., and you mentioned his loss of job, all of that occurred as a result of this particular incident.
Attorney Frazier, I'm just going to make some assumptions here. You said you were coming from work. I assume you had on business attire. You probably had your briefcase or bag with you. And it appears to me that you were doing everything possible at the time, at that moment on August 1st, to one, de-escalate the situation, but also to give all your information, which frankly, I don't think criminals do. If there was something to be guilty of, they're not going to give their business card to the bus driver. They're not going to give all their information. So the question is, why, aside from the racial issue that we can all say, and I can say as the host of the show that I think is absolutely the number one factor here, but I'm just trying to get an understanding of what the officers did at that time. Did they tell you why you were being arrested? Did they explain to you what their process was? What was happening during that chaotic scene?
I mean, the verbal interaction between the police officers and I was at an extreme minimum. When I first disembarked at the bus, they asked me what my name was, and they asked me to turn around. I thought they were asking me to turn around so they could properly make sure I didn't have anything hidden in my belt line or anything like that. So I complied and turned around, at which time is when they took my wrists and handcuffed me. So that was the first verbal interaction, first of all. And then the second verbal interaction was when we were already back at Haymarket. They had me stood up outside the police car with the lights flashing in handcuffs. And they asked the woman to identify me, which she did from across the busway. Their second verbal interaction with me was that I was being arrested for indecent assault and battery.
But I just also want to add, in terms of, I think, which is crucial as well, Tony, is when they had him handcuffed, Attorney Frazier on Rutherford Avenue in Charlestown, right by the bus. They again had him displayed out there. This is all taking place in the street, in front of all the passengers on the bus. I'm sure everyone was looking out the window as to determine what was happening. As we said, they asked no one. So he asked to say, hey, the interaction, another verbal one was, can you put me in the police car? Not have me standing out here in the middle of the street in full display, further humiliated. And I understand that from Attorney Fraser that they put him in the patrol car. Yes.
That was at my request.
Right.
Wow. Your next move, Attorney Frazier, was to file a complaint to MBTA authorities. What was the nature of this complaint? And we're going to go deeper into a deeper dive into what the MBTA alleges went wrong with your filing. But tell us what that process was in terms of you notifying the MBTA that you wanted to file a complaint against them.
Certainly. So that was, I would say, after a period of deliberation, Tonya. I mean, it wasn't something that I was immediately going to pursue, honestly. And after, speaking with my colleagues and Attorney Feaster, particularly, he encouraged me to take action against the MBTA. We filed a multi-count complaint that, as the judge mentioned last week, it's numerous pages. Off the top of my head, we pursuing the MBTA for negligent training of their officers, for civil rights claims related to the false arrest, primarily for a discrimination claim, as we say that this is all based on my race, and then other claims related to assault and battery and personal injury from the injuries I sustained.
Last week in Suffolk Superior Court, Attorney Tom Donahue, representing the MBTA, filed several motions of dismissal, noting among several things that first, the discrimination claim wasn't valid, and two negligent claims should be thrown out because you did not properly submit paperwork to the correct person, i.e. the general manager. You did, however, submit it to the overseer of the MBTA, Secretary Stephanie Pollock. Attorney Fraser, what do you make of these? And I have to say there were several motions to dismiss, but I wanted to focus on these two in particular. First, let's talk about the discrimination suit. Why? It seems to me that it's all like technical mumbo jumbo, that's why they're filing this motion, because you weren't necessarily an employee of the MBTA, so therefore that particular statute did not apply. Can you explain that to our audience, please?
Well, let me take that one. Yeah, let me take that one. I'm going to step in as the lawyer.
Yes.
I don't want them in terms of depositions taking this show and saying this is what my client has said. So they can't do that with me.
Okay.
There's a privilege.
Fair enough.
So, I got to do my job. After 46 years of practice, I got to do my job, Tony.
This is the reason why I hired counsel, Tony.
Yes, of course.
That whole issue, I have much regard for Attorney Donahue. He's doing the job that he needs to do for his client. So there's no animosity there. There's no disrespect there. He's doing his job. I don't agree with the position that they're taking. They're splitting hairs, but that's what you do in the law. You try to find a technical reason as to why a matter should not go forward. So he's doing his job. With regards to the Chapter 151B matter, that's a statute for discrimination in the Commonwealth. Normally, you file that with an organization called the Massachusetts Commission Against Discrimination. And it has discrimination in several forms. It could be in terms of race, ethnicity, sexual preference, and other reasons. And usually, one aspect of it is in an employer-employee relationship. The other one is, as we pointed out, yes, and as the judge inquired last week, yes, there is a public accommodation one that says, fine, we want to go against a situation where people are discriminated in public accommodation. We said, arguably, if you don't want to look at it in that light, Your Honor, and then we want you to look at another statute which deals with discrimination in a public accommodation, and that was Chapter 272, either Section 92 or Section 98. I don't have it in front of me right at the moment. So we said if you can't get in one, then get in the other. We're just saying there's discrimination, and it should be adjudicated. The other part that counsel was trying to say, counsel for the defendants were trying to say is that, there's no employer-employee relationship. We're not arguing that. We aren't contending that Attorney Frazier worked for the MBTA. We also, he said, well, the MBTA ruled against it. That's not true. The facts speak for themselves. The MCAD said, we won't take up the matter because it's a criminal matter, because that's what, and the whole issue and discussion about whether the criminal complaint was filed, et cetera, that's all nonsense. If you're arrested, there's a complaint issue and it goes to the court, there's a criminal complaint. That's issue. But anyway, they said, since there's a criminal complaint, we're not going to take up the issue. There's another forum for it to be decided. But that the plaintiff can come back if there is not adjudicated there. Attorney Frazier could come back to MCAD and file under the public accommodations for their review. So that whole discussion, which, interesting, but, it'll be interesting to see how the judge rules on that. But if we get to first base on either the Chapter 151B public accommodations or Chapter 272, we'll take either one.
I agree with you. It was a lot of splitting hairs because I mentioned I attended it virtually, listening to the hearing. The other issue, which I think was another splitting hairs kind of thing, was who Attorney Frazier submitted the complaint to. And Attorney Donahue was arguing that it has to go specifically to the general manager of the MBTA. But what Attorney Frazier did, or what you did, I should say, because you're here, is you submitted it to Secretary Stephanie Pollack, who oversees the general manager. So again, splitting hairs. Why does it matter if the general manager receives the complaint, whether it's from his boss or from the person? I didn't get that.
Well, I'm going to answer it in two ways. One, if you can recall the statement that I made, I said the law isn't static. Regulations and rules change. So what Attorney Donahue says, the strict letter of the statute says, if you're going to do presentment, this is who you need to serve it on and to make the notice. What our argument is, okay, we feel that we met that requirement first and foremost. I don't give away any type of advantage. We served the MCAD complaint. We served the counsel. In fact, I communicated and had conversations with the counsel about the case. We served Secretary Pollack, who in all the literature is said to be the secretary and the CEO of the MBTA. Now, I know that Judge Baker created this oversight board that had this person who was to serve as a general manager. Our contention is that we met the presentment statute. But more importantly, we're saying to the court, the question is, did they have notice of what the claim was? So if you want to say that because we didn't put it in, again, we have the notations because under COVID, we couldn't get up into the offices where they were and hand it to the person. So we have the signatories of the persons who took it, to whom they gave it to. That's, we gave it to someone to sign for it, and they transmitted it. So the question is, they knew what the case was about. They knew about it from the MCAD piece. They knew about it from the filing and the conversation that I had with the general counsel, and they knew about it with the filing. So we'll see if the judge wants to agree with the technical aspect and say it's the person. There's nothing we can do about that. We can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. This is what we did. This is what we contend, and it's now for the judge to determine whether he wants to be a strict constructionist or take a liberal interpretation. But more importantly, our contention is we serve the right person.
Attorney Frazier, as I mentioned at the top, you suffered from embarrassment from this happening in front of a crowd of people. You were injured as a result, and you lost your job. Why is it important for you to have your day in court on this matter?
I think it's the wider, the wider issue that goes on in our community that, this occurred to me, and I was able to, from my professional connections, make sure that it didn't go any further from a criminal standpoint, right? It starts from the moment I was arrested. Had I not had enough cash bail money in my briefcase, then I would have spent the night in jail, show up the next day, looking like yesterday, and then they're levying sexual assault charges at you. It moves forward to arraignment. You have to plead guilty. It would still be going on today. Could be on probation. That's how innocent Black men end up in the prison system industry, in the prison industry. And so for me, it's kind of a wider call that I'm trying to make, and something that I'm trying to explore is, really, let's get to the bottom of one of these cases. How often does this happen? And so that's why we'd like to see the case go forward, so that we can move to discovery and take a look at some of these MBTA training manuals to see. There was 4 or 5 police officers on the scene, and none of them thought that was proper police procedure. So is that the way they were trained, or is there something else behind it? Records from these police officers and any complaints that they've had that show racial animus, things like that need to be brought to light. So that's really why I am pursuing this case with the wise counsel of Attorney Frazier. It sends a wider message that we're not letting this just fall into the shadows.
And if I could just underscore just something on that as well, and I think Attorney Frazier has stated it, but the real question here is, Tanya, we've had a proliferation in the most recent years, particularly I call it the era of George Floyd. And I stated it at the hearing last week. I said, the belief all along was that law enforcement and police officers, they don't tell lies, they don't do anything bad, and they don't discriminate against anybody. Wrong. We've come to light and we've come to learn that that's just not true. Yeah. And all we're saying is we want to be able to have an opportunity to look at their record. Maybe these folks were doing a job, they did it by the book, they didn't have any racial animus, and they would have done this no matter who was involved with, as far as the allegation was made against. We may find that, and like I said to the judge, if that's the case and we can't prove it, hey, summary process is there, you dismiss the case. If we can't prove any of what we've said here, there's another opportunity. But what they want to do with the motion to dismiss is not even allow us to get there to investigate that. And as we saw, and I can say here now, if that was almost the case in the Aubrey matter, where the prosecutors wouldn't go forward until that tape emerged, and for those defendants, unfortunately, they thought that the tape would absolve them, and it turned out to be the factor that incriminated them. Mm-hmm. So we have the information. So again, I'm sure that the bus, again, we asked for them to preserve all the tapes. Even the video on the bus will show what may have happened at Rutherford Avenue when they, when they arrested. Exactly. And to dispute what we contend is the falsification of what they put in the report that we told Attorney Frazier that he was arrested. We're saying they said nothing. He said, right, turn around and arrest him. So what we want, there's empirical evidence that's out there, and what they want us to do, not be able to do, is be able to bring all that forward before a trial of fact.
Attorney Frazier, and I don't know if you can answer this, but I'm very curious as to why you were fired as a result of this incident, particularly when the next day at your arraignment, they had dismissed the charges.
The next day, Tonya, I notified my superiors of what had happened, and that was just the procedure that followed. For personal and strategic reasons, I didn't pursue that any further.
Understood. Absolutely understood. Judge Paul Wilson of the Massachusetts Suffolk Superior Court will render a decision soon on whether to dismiss the lawsuit. What do you, Attorney Frazier, want our audience to know about the importance of what has happened here, so that perhaps we can shine some light on this so that it doesn't happen to other, as you mentioned, young African-American men who are just simply trying to get home from work?
Well, I mean, I wish I could provide a playbook or any modicum of advice to see that it doesn't happen to another young Black man. I mean, I didn't think that it would happen to me. All I can say is that in that situation, I credit myself for de-escalating the police officers. This is right around the time, where this was the summer of 2017, with all of the other escalation and police killings that had occurred in the past 6 or 7 months. I feel that I was the one that de-escalated those 5 police officers into making it not a tragic situation for myself.
Just imagine on that point, Tanya, if Attorney Frazier says, I'm a lawyer, I'm an upstanding citizen, you can't do this to me, what's your badge number, etc. What do you think would have happened out there on Rutherford Avenue?
Oh, I know what would have happened.
Yeah. See, so what we're saying is, that's what we're saying here, that maybe there's the need for the training. We're learning from the more recent cases that there's a need for training and sensitivity and understanding. We find that when white police officers confront someone who is Black, that oftentimes, be it man, woman, or child, bad things happen. And this could have been a situation that if any way Attorney Frazier asserted his rights, which again, sometimes you say, hey, if you know you've done nothing wrong and you feel you're treated unfairly, you say that, well, on the streets with police officer, there's no win there. And Attorney Frazier was wise enough to not go that route. He said, I know that I have another place where I can raise this issue, and that was in a court of law. And that's what we want. That's what I would impart to any young Black man that's out there. Don't try to fight the issue on the street, because you're not going to win.
Right.
What you want to do is let the situation proceed, and then to assert your rights in the proper form.
Just make it out of the situation, and there is another forum.
Oh, trust me, my stepdad, retired Judge Severlin Singleton, tells us this all the time. You cannot win in those cases. Attorney Frazier, thank you so much for coming on today. And of course, Joseph Feaster, thank you so much for being guest today. On a personal note, I do hope you see your day in court. I think that this is an issue that does need to be brought to light, and we will update our audience when Judge Wilson rules. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for being a guest today, and the best of luck to you, Attorney Frazier.
Thank you, Tonya.
Thank you, Tonya.
Did he have vitiligo, and is that why he lightened his skin?
The king of pop had vitiligo.
I'm a Black American. I'm proud to be a Black American.
And he allegedly bleached his skin.
I have a skin disorder. There is no such thing as skin bleaching.
Let's get to the fact versus the fiction here.
He has a serious skin condition, which I have witnessed.
When people make up stories that I don't want to be who I am, it hurts me.
My world ended that day.
Because what was your biggest fear?
I'm just too fabulous for that. All of this chocolate, milk chocolate, you're saying may go away?
That's all I did was watch TV, go to the refrigerator, watch TV, go to the refrigerator. That's it. That's all I did. I wasn't doing nothing. I was staying in the house.
You know, next to photos, it's like, and then be the spotted one. So it was hard, absolutely.
This was gonna be it, that there was not gonna be anything else out there to help me because I had already tried everything.
Why me? Especially in mornings when you had to do life again each day. I was like, why me?
Vitiligo is an autoimmune disease.
The immune system, which we know fights viruses, and vitiligo, it's the skin color cells.
Leading to white patches, often in exposed areas such as the face or hands. When patients come in, sometimes they just want to know what's going on.
Is this something that I can catch?
And once we know what causes vitiligo and what drives vitiligo, we can design treatments and be able to treat patients.
The creators of 100 Years, 100 Voices of Faith bring you more than our skin. The compelling stories of 5 women living with vitiligo. It's the story of more than the skin you see. It's the pain, depression, suicide thoughts that come knowing that with their pigmentation, a bit of humanity also faded away.
I was upset. They used to stare and look and point.
How is the disease affecting them?
I didn't want to be around people.
Not leaving their homes because it so deeply affects them.
The view of all the people and them.
There's no way you can hear those stories and not get personally involved.
Oh, were you burned in a fire? And I looked at him and I said, does this look like a burn?
And through their anger and pain, they're able to stand strong with the support of their communities to tell the world what they want you to know about what it means to live with vitiligo.
The journey will be hard.
They should not, make fun of people.
It's not just spots on your skin. This is affecting this.
We got to speak for those that don't want to speak, for the voiceless.
My biggest hope is that it encourage, lift up, pick up someone that's down in the dumps. Our aim is to continue on this upward motion, making it happen.
More than our skin. Remember, you can listen to past episodes of the PowerPLAY Show wherever you subscribe to podcasts, including iTunes, iHeartRadio, Pandora Podcasts, and now Amazon Music. You can also watch our shows on YouTube. Simply search the Hope A Productions Media channel and be sure to subscribe so you always know when we're live. And we air each Saturday at 5 p.m. on BroncoiRadio.com. So tune into a new episode of the PowerPLAY Show each Thursday wherever you subscribe to podcasts, or on our YouTube channel at the Hope A Productions Media channel, or simply visit thepowerplayshow.com. Until next time, I'm your host, Tonya McGrath. Continue to create and build.